on me. Take a breath. I am Lisa Hurley, activist, author, and community builder. Welcome to Space to Exhale, the podcast, weekly inspiration for self-love and self-living. Hi, folks, and welcome to Space to Exhale, the podcast, a safe, serene sanctuary where we focus on high vibrations, affirmations, soft living, and self-care. I am your host, Lisa Hurley. I'm a 3-time Anthem Award-winning activist, Reiki master, and the author of Space to Exhale, a handbook for curating a soft, centered, serene life. I'm here to help us all do just that. Relax, take a breath, say no to hustle culture, and yes to a life of ease. My hope and dream is for us all to curate lives that we don't feel we need a break from. And today I am super excited to introduce you to my guest, Latrice Torres. Yay! Welcome, Latrice. Welcome, Latrice.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. You know, I'm excited.
I know you're excited. We're both excited.
Yes.
So let me tell the people who you are, right? That is an important aspect of the book and what we talk about even before the book came out, a focus of both our works. So Latrice Torres is an accomplished HR, career strategy, and leadership development expert with over 20 years of experience in talent management and leadership development. She holds SPHR and SHRM SCP certifications and founded LeaderKeys Consulting LLC in June 2020, focusing on cultivating inclusive leaders and coaching professionals through career transitions. A strong advocate for racial justice, she created a signature racial justice workshop and launched the Career Accelerator for Black Women, a focused leadership development program. In 2025, she shifted her focus to exclusively support Black women, empowering them to overcome corporate and professional challenges. Latrice has trained thousands of leaders globally and developed programs in talent development, performance management, and fostering equitable cultures. While passionate about her work, she values her roles as a grandmother, mother, daughter, wife, sister, and friend. I can vouch for that even more. So once again, Latrice, welcome.
Thank you. It's always so weird hearing your bio. I never get used to that. Yeah, I never get used to it.
It's a bizarre feeling. It's a bizarre feeling.
It is, but I'm so excited to be here and to support you on your first of many books. We're going to get through this one.
We shall see. Right, I see what you tried to do there.
I'm going to speak it into existence.
Like, yeah, the backstory to that is I have said after this experience, I'm not ever publishing another book. But Latrice and Ilona, my sister, my mom, a few others are trying to convince me to publish another book. We'll see who wins that battle. They probably will, to be honest. But So we have a very, I think, exciting and interesting conversation for you, planned for you today. But as usual, the podcast is new, but soon we'll get into the vibe and the flow of it. So, and you'll learn what to expect. So what happens now is, before we get started and dive into the discussion, we take a moment to exhale together. So let's get grounded and take a few breaths together as a community. So close your eyes. Bring your shoulders up to your ears and then relax them down. Relax your eyebrows. Relax your jaw. And now inhale through your nose. Inhale. And exhale through your mouth. Inhale. And exhale. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Okay. All right. Now we're grounded. We're settled. And we're ready to dive into it. Right, Latrice?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So when you and I were talking, I mean, we have conversations almost every day, right? But when we were talking about, okay, what are we going to focus on for this episode? You were like, oh, it's got to be curating one's career naturally.
Yeah.
It's the focus of your work, and it is something that I talk about in the book. And so it's a natural fit. So my first question to you is, as an executive career coach and a Black woman, what does the phrase curate your career mean to you?
So, yeah. First of all, curate's a verb. So I want to start with that because we want to make sure.
Are we doing snaps? Can we do snaps?
Right. We're doing snaps. All right. Curate is a verb. And when you think about curation, there's actually two steps. And I think a lot of the times we only think about the first step. The first step, which is gathering, right? It's a gathering, it's a collection and everything. But the second part of that is presenting. So when I hear curate your career, I think of the total package of that. And that's one of the things I focus on in the coaching, is that what we are really doing with our careers is up to us. And if we don't own that, then it's up to somebody else. We're actually we're working on somebody else's dreams and goals, right? So curation means we're going to take the collection of all of the experiences and the activities and the learning and the exposure and all of those things, right? And they collectively come together to present the total package of our careers. And if we're driving that bus, we'll get to the right destination that we defined. Yes. So that's what it means to me. And I think that's the most important part that people need to hold on to in terms of ownership of career.
Yeah. That we must all drive the bus. We are the drivers. We are the people in charge, and we have to be proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think even in your last podcast, it's probably going to happen over and over again. But I think a lot of the times we tend to refer to the 7 habits of highly effective people. And like the first habit is be proactive. But the second habit is think with the end in mind. And essentially, like, that's where we start in terms of the coaching. They're being proactive by actually reaching out to me and hiring me as a coach. You've already taken a step. That already tells me, I tell every single client, you've already taken some step because you've contacted me and we're working together, right? But the second piece of that is, then where do you want to go? What are we going to work towards? If we don't know what that is, it's the same thing as when you go to the grocery store hungry, right? Like you buy everything. Everything look good.
Listen, I'm here laughing in, Oreos and Ben and Jerry's right now, because that is exactly what, and chips, plantain chips. That is exactly what happens. Not a vegetable, not a whole meal, just like snacks and salt.
Right. That's it. So like if you don't, I still go to the grocery store with a full grocery list, right? Yes. Or at least I've gone to the grocery store saying, I am going to get this stuff for X event or for these 3, 4, 5 meals for the week or whatever, like that, whatever that is. But it's the same thing with your career, because otherwise, if you're not doing that, then you're going to do what everybody does, which is, they won't promote me. They aren't giving me the opportunities. They aren't, it's not about they, it is about you. But if you don't know what you're trying to seek, then you'll take anything that comes. Right. You'll take everything in. And if there's somebody sitting here right now that's probably even contemplating some new thing that they done thrown, some shiny object they done thrown in front of you. Right. And that is a complete deterrent of where you want to go in your career. But if you haven't defined that, you're going to take it and you're going to keep going along. And next thing you know, I can't tell you how many people who are like, Latrice, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I'm like, but you're 46. Like you've grown up. We're here.
We have arrived. We already arrived at that destination. So what now?
Right. But that's the bulk of my clients, because I help people through their career transitions. And typically they're either moving to something else or they're rethinking. But usually 99.99% of the time, it's because they weren't really, really crystal clear on what that end destination is. So we start there. And you can't curate until you get that piece. You got to start at that part. Where what's the
clarity?
Yeah.
The clarity.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So how does curating your career, because what we want to focus on is the career part and the life part. I always say it is life-work balance in that order. It's not about work-life balance. It's about life-work balance. So how does curating your career help you and others create space to exhale in their lives? Like what strategies, mindsets? How can people get a career that supports their values and their softness, not just their
So I hope everybody bought pen and paper to this. I say this all the time. Like I tend to I'm going to do a talk. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do that. Actually, I'm going to do a workshop. Right. So emphasis on the word work. So if you don't have so pen and paper, or you don't have a notepad opened up on your screen, now's the time to do that. So I'm going to give you like 2 seconds to do that. Like get ready, because I have a model for that.
1,000, 1,000. That was your 2 seconds.
That's it. There we go. So the model that I have, and I talk about all the time with my coaching clients, it's called the TOP model. And essentially what that looks like is that their career happiness, not even success, because if it's happiness, if you get to the career happiness, you're going to be successful, right? But we have to get to career happiness.
Say that again. What? If you're going to say it again. I don't even want to misquote you.
Because a lot of the times people always talk about career success. We use the word success so much, but that's fluid and it almost can change. What we are really seeking is career happiness. And if you are happy in your career, you're going to be successful. The success, it's there, right? It's unsaid.
More snaps. More snaps.
Right. Okay. So when we talk about career happiness, the TOP model goes like this. It is an intersection of 3 things: talents, opportunities, right? I need another finger, and passion. Those are the 3. Talent. I don't know why I went with 2 hands. I have no idea.
Right? You're like 1, 2.
Like, what are we doing here? What do I do with my hands? Okay. So talents, opportunities, passion. So let me break those down. With your talents, it is the things you actually are good at, right? What are you, and not the things that you're good because you've taken 1,000 hours of something in order to get there. I mean the things that you are innately, you wake up in the morning, you're just good at, right? What are you talented at? Because if it comes natural to you, it's like the strengths, right? Focusing on your strengths rather than focusing on all of the weaknesses and the develop. If it's a weakness, it's a weakness, right? I tell everybody, I am not a numbers. Everybody has them. I am not a numbers person. I married a numbers person to fill in that gap, right? Because that's not my thing. That is not my thing. It will never be that thing. So every job I have ever had, every role, I will tell them straight up, don't leave me with that budget. Like, I'm not your budget girl. That's not me, right? Because that's not, and no matter how much, and trust me, I've even I can do it.
You've
but I don't
managed
want
budgets.
to.
Exactly. You've done it.
Right. I don't want to. And if I don't want to, then that means I'm not going to give the discretionary effort, right? So talent is like really honing in on what your talents are and focusing on that has to be the first piece of that, right? So the first thing I have my clients do is really have a very open and honest conversation about their talents. And I walk them through an exercise that I give them that is timed. I tell them they cannot take more than 20 minutes to do any part of the exercise.
Mm-hmm.
The exercise comes in 3 parts. What do you think your talents are? And then ask people who are acquaintances, co-workers, and everything, not friends, but those people who you have those occasional, right?
Right.
They have their space, right? But they're not your friends. They're the people who kind of know you, but don't really know you. And ask them what your talents are, because now you're going to get an objective opinion, because they're just whatever engagement they have with you. That's how they're going to judge what your talents are. So you ask those people, right? And again, never give more than 20 minutes in that conversation. In fact, I even insist that they do that on email, right? Just ask them and say, I'm working with an executive coach and she wants me to ask you, what are my talents, right? And let them just respond. And then the third group are those people who love you, right? Your friends, your family, those close people who will really tell you the truth, like really. And that it's got to be those people. Right. And you got to know who they are. If you don't know who those people are, then that's a different coach. That's a life coach.
A life coach and a therapist.
Right. And a therapist. Like, I will give you referrals, but because that's not me. But if you can do that, then those are the 2 groups. And we really get this listed, because what you're going to see is you're going to see some overlaps. You might be surprised by some things. You might be like, oh, really? You consider that a talent? It's perspective, and it's diversifying the amount of perspectives that you get, so that you get this total picture of literally what are your talents, right? So we start with that. Then the next piece of that is the opportunities. What that means is, what are those opportunities that exist in the world, in your organization, on your team, within your role, whatever it is, but what are those opportunities to apply those talents? Because if you are just thrown into opportunities or just taking opportunities that really don't align to what you're good at, again, how are you going to behave? You're only going to behave so much, like you're only going to give it so much, right? Yeah. But when you align, like purposefully, like, I am really good at presenting, so I am going to be a part of this team that does the final presentation and not the team that's building the presentation. Like, put me on that. Like, you got to know what your talents are, and you got to be honest about what they aren't, right? So you're looking for those opportunities. You're also looking for those long-term opportunities that may be 2, 3, 4 levels ahead, but there's something that will get you exposed into that's going to put you on that path, right? So opportunities and figuring out what those are. That exercise looks like relationships. So follow me here.
Okay. That took a little left turn that I was not expecting. Tell me more.
Because here's the thing. Where do most of your opportunities come from?
Other people.
They don't fall out of the sky. They come from specific people. They come from mentors, sponsors. So that's the next thing they do. Like, I've checked the coach box, but do you have an advisor? Do you have a topical person that's just a specific thing that you want to learn? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a sponsor? Those are all the different roles. That's a different class, by the way, too. I actually have a whole class on the 7 people that you need, but you need to fill those roles. So that's what that opportunity activity looks like. Because what exists in your world? Because I can't help coach you until I know, like, what even exists. What are the possibilities, right? So opportunities. That's that second piece. The third piece of that is passions. This is where we get to, like, the cool stuff, right? What are you passionate about? Not what do you like to do or what you would want to do, but what are you really, really passionate about? That is direct alignment with your values and the things that how you want to exist in the world. What are you actually passionate about that you wake up in the morning excited to do, right? In my entire corporate career, there was one thing that I was passionate about, and that was making people awesome. I was passionate about making people awesome. And I say that I joke now. I used to use that hashtag a lot, hashtag making people awesome. But I also joke because I say that's not the full hashtag. And I know I'm about to be like, it's going to be, you know what I'm about to say because I said it before. But the whole hashtag is making people awesome because most people suck. That's the whole hashtag.
And this, alas, is a fact, however.
It's again, when I say because most people suck, I put myself on that list as well. There are just times that I just suck, right? Because that's just part of being right. It's part of being human. But I one of the things, anytime I could be doing an 8-hour, I could be doing a 4 or 5 day class or something like that. There's a moment that happens in every individual where like there's like this little light bulb that comes off. I live for that moment. I live for that moment. Like the 800 hours I put in to prepare for whatever I'm delivering, that little 2 seconds where it just comes on and then I see them wake up. That's what I'm passionate about. It's that.
Oh, that's right? Beautiful.
And that's the thing. It's figuring out really what makes you want to do more of what you do. Mm-hmm. And it may not always be like, it could be the money, that's fine. But it may not always be that, right? Our drivers are different. Sometimes they vary by the day. But the thing is, we got to be really crystal clear about what those things are. So when we get really good about here's what I'm passionate about, what I love to do, then you learn how to curate, right? And because the most important part of that exercise when we're talking about passions is that I have them do this list of what I'm passionate about. And then also, what am I not passionate about? Like, here's what
that's important to know too. That's important to know too. And that actually brings us to another question that I have, which is, so you've done all this work and you've sort of started to do the deep dive using your framework, right? Top,
Mm-hmm.
right. Mm-hmm. And so you've done that and you start to get some inner clarity. What happens when that clarity leads you to, I got to get away from this place or this situation? Like, can you share a time when curating your career meant stepping away, walking away from whether it is, a title, a paycheck, a job, a colleague?
I'm going to share 2 stories. I'm going to share 2 stories.
Please do.
There's 2 significant moments in my career. Mm-hmm. The moment I decided to just create my own ladder and step off the broken one, right? Because the broken rung is such a real thing. And then the second time when I decided to just leave corporate. Okay. All right, I'll tell that second one in a second. So the first one, I was actually at a major conference. I had presented all week and I had a day off. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go sit in some other workshops. See, who else is here. So I sat in a workshop and I will go into the details of the workshop. But it's essentially what was happening in there is they were talking about exactly this of are you really being valued? I didn't even think that was the name of the workshop. And they were talking about just self-value. And I had actually just come off of, I think I had been in Denmark for 3 months or something like that. It was hard. I took that assignment and it was over both Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I wasn't with my family for major holidays and I was missing. Then my boys were young and everything. And I had done that whole entire thing. And I came back and 2 days later, they were like, hey, we're sending you to this conference and you're going to do it. Right. And at that time, I wasn't even in a management level role, but I had been traveling internationally for this organization for a few years by that point.
Right.
And I was like the go-to person. I'm doing all of this international work, building programs, doing all of this kind of stuff, just all the stuff, right? But no title. Now, I will say the company was good. It was a pharmaceutical company, so I had all the pay. Like they paid well. I will say that. But I had no title. And the thing was, is that I knew that that was like stifling my career. I was just like known as like this senior specialist. I think that was even the title. And I was just sitting there, and I sat there. And they were talking about value. And I was like, okay, I may never move from this spot. It may never happen. And they walked through this exercise, this value exercise of like assessing what do you look like right now? What are you doing? How much effort is going into that? What is that? Like this whole entire thing. And I have to tell you, at the end of it, I had like the lowest score. And I was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed. And I just, to the extent that I'm like, I'm getting red right now because I remember like my face, and then I just cried just uncontrollably. I cried, and I was sitting in the back room, and I was just crying. And the two presenters came up to me, and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I think I have to leave my job. Like, I think I have to leave my job. I have to." And I loved the company, loved the work. But my value wasn't there. I was going nowhere. And I knew I had to leave in order to continue to go across that curation, because I knew where I wanted to be, but I was never going to get there where I was at that point. And it was hard. And so it was rough. It was rough. So that was the first one. The second story is about when I left corporate, and I tell this story quite often. So I left corporate. Long story short, had a nightmare of a leader who just took me down. Yeah, they took me down. And
there's so many of them too, you know.
Like, yes, just bad, really, really bad, and blatant. This was one of those just play all up in your face, you know, just play in your face type bad, right? And just really, really, really torture you. Okay. I had endured that for about 3 years, to the extent of therapy, all of that, like all of the stuff. And then COVID hit. And it was like, oh, we're going to all go virtual. Now, keep in mind, the only virtual trainer, the only person who worked virtually, who managed virtual team, who literally worked cross-functionally across the globe, was this person. And but it was an opportunity for my leader to get rid of me. And so they did. So I was the first to be furloughed. First, they couldn't wait. And in fact, this is how messed up it was. When they called me to tell me that I was being furloughed, it was the leader, an HR person, and everything. Like I was going to come through the screen and strangle somebody. Like I don't know what they thought was going to happen, but when they told me, all I heard was time off, paid.
Right. You're like, this is great.
Paid time off. That's all I heard. So I was like, cool. All right, deuces. I'm out. Now, of course, we know what that led
to. I know you really did do juices.
I did. I really was like, cool then. See y'all in 3 months. 3 months went by. But in that 3 months, again, that's when I developed that top model and was like, are they fully leveraging my talents? What opportunities do I have? Am I actually passionate about what this organization does, what I want? Are my passions being tapped into? Like, is this even a thing? Right. And I understood that it wasn't incongruous. And the other thing is that, again, I was in therapy and everything. Like I didn't even like the people. Like I really didn't like the people, not just the leader, but all the people who were protecting that leader too. Like I didn't like none of it. And I just had that thought of like, okay, I done all of this. I assessed everything. It's time. But is it like time? And I realized that every single role that I had been in, the more I was climbing that corporate ladder, I was doing that at an expense. And the expense was trading basically one monster for another monster for another monster for another. And I was like, do I want to do that anymore? Like, is that the place I want to be in? And that was literally the day they called me to come back. I tell everyone, I don't remember the conversation. I just remember the leader's head moving like this. She was talking
like a bobblehead.
The mouth was moving and the head was moving and was doing all of this. And there was gestures. And all I was thinking in my head was, yeah, I can't. I'm done. I'm done. I don't have a plan, but I'm done with this. Like whatever's next, I'll deal with it. But this is done. And it was that moment. And they were like, oh, okay. Well, we want you to, think about it and everything like that. I was like, all right, cool. I'll let you know tomorrow. I got off that call and immediately started typing up my resignation. As a matter of fact, I think I started typing that resignation while I was still on the call. I was so checked out.
Wow.
And I just did that. And then it was just done. And I said, and I cannot do corporate. I don't know what I got to do. I don't care. I will sell tacos on a corner. I don't care. But I'm done with corporate.
Of things to sell on a corner, tacos are a good choice.
I'm a Californian, right? I live in New Jersey now, but like in my head, it's tacos, right? So I'm a Californian.
I think that's a positive choice.
Right?
I would buy tacos from your food truck. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because the tacos.
You can't cook. Apart from anything else, you can't cook.
Yes, the tacos will be on. There'll be all kinds of flavors. Anybody want to, hit me up, DM me about taco truck, #taco truck. All right.
Oh my gosh. So listen, so that sounds like you were, I don't know, almost in a state of simultaneous disillusion and clarity, right? It's like you're disillusioned. You finally realized, okay, this is actually where I am. You've accepted it. You feel bad about how they have treated you, how you have allowed yourself to be treated, because both sides contribute, right? It is them and it is us. We've all been there, right?
Right.
So this is how you're feeling. It's this mix of positive and negative. And so for people who are at that juncture, they're at that fork in the road, right? What is the first step that you suggest that they take? What would you encourage them to do when people are when they're at that fork in the road? Like, do they take the left? Do they take the right? Like, what do you advise them to do to know which direction to go in for them?
Yeah, it definitely is taking out that pen and paper and making that list. Making that list of here's why I would stay, and the other side of that, here's why I would go, and look at those side by side. And that's why I offer that top model and going through that exercise, because a lot of the times we don't even realize that we're not being valued because we haven't clearly defined our value for ourselves.
Ooh. All right. Say that one more time for the people, please.
Yeah. A lot of the times we do not understand that we're not being valued because we have not clearly defined our value for ourselves. And if we have not done that, if we're not clear on that for ourselves, we will allow things that we regret later after the fact, right? Where everything is hindsight 2020. But if we can like sharpen that lens and understand that and get that together, it gets easy. It actually gets really easy to recognize when these things are not in alignment. And then the other piece of this is energy. You and I have talked about this. I talk about this a lot, about the energy bank account.
Right. We both talk about this. Yes.
Right.
Sure.
The deposits, the withdrawals, all that. Like there's that as well. And if it is taking away from your energy, then it's going to impact multiple things. One, motivation. When your energy is gone, you're not motivated. It's gone, right? That means it's also impacting your willingness. How willing am I to keep enduring this, right? If the energy is low, the less willing that you're going to be, right? And then the other piece of that, and I talk about this a lot in situational leadership. In situational leadership, we talk about the intersection of two things, right? Do I know how to do it? And do I want to do it? Right? That's the intersection. There's a lot of stuff.
I can already tell you the answer is yes, no.
Right. And when it is yes, no, that is actually a very specific place. We call that development level 2, right? And development level 2, the remedy to that is coaching. That coaching leadership style is what gets us out there. And I'm actually not using coaching because I am a coach. I'm actually not selling at this point, because actually what I'm talking about is self-coaching at this point.
Yes.
If you have answers that is, I can do it, but I don't want to do it, then you're going to have to start doing some self-coaching. And that's what that process is. That process is, what are my values? Here's what I as a goal. Here are the things that are a no-go. And that no-go list, it's like that. I recommend that exercise for almost everything. Like if you dating,
relationships too.
Right. Exactly. That's where I was going.
I'm just
saying. You dating, like it's the same thing.
The pros and the cons.
Right? Yes. Right. And it's the deep dive, like it's the honest dive into that. Because again, sometimes those pros are false pros. They're false pros because they're not in alignment with who you really are and what you're really good at.
That is good. Give me an example. Give us an example of a false pro, if you can.
False pro. Yeah.
If I know this is like off the cuff, but if you can think of any, I'm thinking of sometimes compensation can be a false pro, in that, like you said, I've been there, you get paid for some jobs a ridiculous amount of money, and we're trained, right, to go after the ever increasing salary. But there are times when that salary becomes a chain, right? Yeah. It becomes a chain. So anyway, but that's my example. But what do you think?
It's funny because I was going to use exactly the same example because I used it in the story. Like the company that I left in that first story, again, the pay was fine. Actually, the opportunities were fine. Like I said, I had just come back off of an international assignment. If I didn't work for that organization, I don't know if I ever would have had global experience that I had. That was the beginning of that. And in fact, that even opened up the doors to other opportunities, to other roles later. They were like, oh, she has international experience. We can send her internationally too. And I've been all over the world through organizations that I've worked for. But so like there was a lot of that. So the facade of like the experiences and the money and all of the things, it's all the stuff that they throw to you and you think it's a pro. But when you come back and you realize, like I said, I discovered that I was, and you know what's so funny about it? There was a nickname for me in this organization.
What was this name?
And I
don't know if I even want to know, but tell me.
It wasn't a horrible nickname for it, but it was. I mean, and hold on. I think last week we already broke the mold. So as mommy around, I've apologized to her before I say that, but I was the get shit done girl. Like the get shit done girl. There was a lot of reasons why that bothered me later as I thought about it, because again, false pros. I had all of the stuff and all that, sitting in the rooms, all of that. And I realized it wasn't even just that job. It actually was a job before, and even the job before, this was a pattern. And I was like, you know what? They're right. But you want to know the part of that term that really, that name that really bothered me? It was girl. For so many reasons. So many. First of all, I'm a grown ass woman. So start with that. And then the layers of other things of being called girl, particularly in a pale society of corporateness.
It was beyond the pale. It was beyond the pale.
Right? Yes. Right? So one of those like backhanded compliments, get shit done, sounds great. You put girl at the end of it, and it became prescriptive, and it was very. I felt yucky. I'm trying to come up with a good word.
Because you were being taken advantage of, to be honest, right? And it's on the one hand, I often say two things can be true. So yes, we have agency and ownership over a lot of what happens in our lives. There are times though, especially when, contracts are involved, right? Contracts are involved. You have, you might be the sole breadwinner for not only your immediate family, but a few people that don't even live in your household, right? We've all been there.
Right.
And you might, quote unquote, have to keep the job. You might have to keep the job, which then introduces the they in the equation. And then they come in and realize, this person has to stay here. We're just going to ride this bus till the wheels fall off.
Right.
And they take advantage and they give you more and more and more without any
Mhm.
corresponding increase
Right.
in remuneration. So you get more responsibilities, no improved title,
Mhm.
not a share to be seen, right?
No, no.
Not a
And
solitary share or anything, but you get more work, more
yeah,
stress, less time with your family, all these stuff. So it is a
yeah.
false pro.
It's a false pro. And
Yeah.
because here's my favorite part of that whole entire thing
Mm.
is that they will actually convince you that
Yes.
they're doing the right thing for you. We'll literally use that type of language and
Hmm.
say, well, we're looking out for you. Well, we're giving you the exposure. Like they were really, really package it up. But lipstick on a pig is still a pig.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
It still is. And that's that's what I mean by those false pros. And I have a lot of clients because I deal with people who are in transition. I have a lot of clients who are stuck in that, literally stuck in that. And because every now and then they'll dangle a carrot.
Oh my gosh. It sounds like a narcissistic abusive relationship.
It is. It is. It's exactly
Yeah.
that. So that's what when I think of like curating your career, there's things that you can put into place because I will say, like I said, I had a beautiful career. I can't complain about the career that I had, but it was because I designed that career.
Mm.
I will tell you, I only had one job title that existed before I had it.
Mm.
Every title that I have had, I have gone in and say, here's what that title is actually. Here's what you're asking me to do. Here's the title that matches what you're asking me to do.
Right. So
So
so let's fix this.
let's fix it. Like I'm not
Yeah.
even taking this job without that. And the further I got in my career, the bolder I got with that. Where literally I would do that in the interview and be like, yeah, but I know you're hiring for, for a VP or whatever that, but here's what you actually are hiring for, and here's the title that I need in order to do that. Right.
Mhm.
So like I got bolder and bolder with that because I understood and I got clarity around that. And again, it was part of my bigger design, which by the way, for y'all, everybody watching, my bigger design was to eventually walk the hell away, which I did. I did earlier than I thought I was going to do, but this was
Mhm.
always the plan was to get out of there. Right. But it's that, like I said at the beginning, it's not just the collection of the experiences and things like that, which again led to a great career, but it's also presenting them in a way that people understood that value. And the two times that didn't happen were the most pivotal points of my career.
Mm.
And we have to get honest about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So listen, what I am hearing, part of what I'm hearing is a lot of boldness, a lot of bravery, a lot of clarity, and a lot of self-acceptance, a lot of agency.
Mhm.
And I happen to know because I'm close to you and the company LeaderKeys Consulting that you have recently taken a pivot and a bold stance, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
your focus is on unapologetic and authentic. Let me switch it around because it's the other way: authentic and unapologetic leadership for Black women. My
Yeah.
question is, though,
Yeah.
there you go, authentic and unapologetic.
Mhm.
So my question is, we've talked a lot about work, but actually part of the focus of what you do and I do is incorporating rest as part of work,
Yes.
right? So we've talked about the work part. So
Yeah.
how does being authentic and unapologetic, how does that enable living a more rested lifestyle or having a less happier but less traumatic
Right.
career?
So, it's funny because you and I had not talked about this before, but so you're going to hear this for the first time. But
Mhm.
there's something that happens specifically in my career coaching that I think every single one of my clients will say, I say constantly, which
Mm.
is give yourself space and grace. And that's why I was so excited when you were like, what do you want to talk about? I was like, well, isn't it obvious? Right. Like, it was like, we're going to talk about our careers in space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's it. In fact, I almost everywhere, especially when I'm with a client and we're at like that height of because there's an emotional journey you go on when you're trying to manage or change your career. And so I have to end most calls with reminding my clients to give themselves space and grace. Mm-hmm. Like you, I am an extreme introvert. You know, I'm the extremist of extreme. Like there's some word, like I just call myself a hermit, but like an extreme introvert, right? I turn off. When I turn off, I turn off, right? But a lot of people struggle with that. And for me, when you were saying boldness and assertiveness, and I was like, yeah, there was a lot of tears and crying too. But the one thing there is that I allowed myself space and grace. So space to step back, evaluate, right? And that's what you need, right? To give that. But a lot of the time, nobody want to give that to you. They so stingy. They haters. Like they are haters of your space, right?
Yes. And because that gives them less. If you are protecting your space, and if you are giving yourself grace, that means that you are no longer as available for them to take advantage of. And so in last week's episode with Alexis, we talked about boundaries, and I feel like there's a relation here, right? There's a link here, right? Setting the boundary of, okay, I need to give myself space. I need more time. I need to take my time off. I need to shut off these notifications. No, I am not available to do whatever it happens to be at the absolute last minute. All those kinds of boundaries are great for you, but a lot of colleagues or companies resent them because that means that you are no longer there to be siphoned from as a resource 24/7.
Absolutely. Soon as the moment you set some boundaries, and I'm gonna throw in a little bit of a bonus here. I usually talk about this with my clients in terms of space, right? Giving yourself space. There's a couple of rules around calendaring that I think just everybody should have. One, I really hate 30-minute meetings, so I schedule them for 20. I hate hour meetings, so I scheduled them for 50, right? That was what I did. There's actually many parts of my practice where I do that as well when I need to, and I recognize when I need to do that with someone. Here's what that extra 10 minutes of space does, right? Mentally, psychologically, we think we can predict an hour without looking at the clock. We think we can't, right? Because every hour meeting goes over. Yeah, can everybody stay a little bit longer, right? We think.
Listen, this was me last week on this podcast. Right. Literally last week. Yes.
Right.
It happens. It always happens. Yeah.
It always happens when we schedule 60 minutes. There was actually, I have to find this study because there was a study on this because I didn't make this up. But if you schedule for 50 minutes or you schedule for off time, like when I'm teaching a class and I give a break, I tell them this. I said, we're going to take an 8-minute one function break. And they're like, what is that? I was like, you have enough time to go to the bathroom. You do not have not enough time for a bathroom and a call or a bathroom and check the email. It's one function, right? You either check the email or you go to the bathroom. So 8 minutes because then they're looking at the clock.
Yeah, like because it's not 5. They think they know 5, but they definitely know they don't know 8.
They don't know 8, right? So that's kind of the function of the 20 and 50 is to force me. And you will be surprised. The study actually showed that those meetings are far more productive because people now they're on the actual clock. Now they're like, well, we only got 50 minutes, right? Now they're looking at the clock and they're checking themselves and they're making sure they do what they need to do. Right. So there's 4. So that's what I mean when I talk about like strategies for like space. When I say space, it's not even just, to your point, it is those borders and boundaries and everything. It is those things. That's one of the strategies to get there. Yeah. It's one.
Can we also add in agendas? But that's a whole nother talk.
Purpose and desired outcome. I learned this in an organization. I don't even remember when it got, but basically, and now it's like, you cannot schedule a meeting with me without like defined purpose and a desired outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Because my biggest pet peeve is meetings to schedule the next meet. That is my biggest. I cannot stand that. Like I can't. I'd rather you cancel and send me an email, right? Which that's a whole nother topic as well. But you have to give me a purpose and a desired outcome. You know, you and I, because we got just yesterday. This just happened yesterday. You were like, I'm here in this meeting, but I've got nothing. I was like, don't worry, I have plenty. Right?
And
like,
I knew you would.
Right.
I knew you would. I'm like, one person is going to be fully prepared is Latrice.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. But you got to have like, those are the relationships. This is why it comes back to those relationships again, is that because those are the relationships you have to build. The reason why people disrespect your space is because they don't have a problem disrespecting you. Right. Like, that's it. And so if you don't build a relationship where you're like, okay, space is going to be important to the two of us. So it is okay that you may not have an agenda because I know you're going to have an agenda, right? Like you build that bond. It doesn't matter because you're going to get stuff done anyway.
Yes. And there are times, it's rare. There are times it goes in the other direction. There have been times when both of us have shown up, again, very rare, with like, we both had like a super long, wait, what? You get to the end of the day at 6 o'clock, you have another meeting where your full brain is supposed to be present, but you're exhausted. Right. And we've just decided, okay, well, we're not going to have that meeting. We're just going to have a chat, and we will have the real meeting later on and have an agenda. Have an agenda and a purpose.
That's the second part of that, of what I'm talking about. Is the first part is that space we're saying, okay, well, we can play in these areas. The second part is grace, right? And those are those moments that we build with each other to be able to give grace and get on the call and go, well, just talk, can we, like, we don't need to do anything. We're okay. We can save it for the next
time.
You
have to build that. You have to build into that. That is not something that you do with colleagues that you barely know at your job. Those people, please show up with an agenda or purpose, with some clarity. Don't hop on there and be looking for the documents.
Exactly.
The first 10 minutes of the meeting, super annoying.
This
be prepared and respect people.
Right. And this is why career curation doesn't include curating people. Like you can't. You can curate relationships along the way, but they're short term. But curating people in your career, in your life, you definitely should curate people. You have a whole entire chapter. I think you got multiple chapters about that, right? But
I drop it in from time to time. Look,
it's important. Yes.
So important. Yeah.
It's so important. But in your career, you are curating your experiences, you're curating your knowledge, you're curating your exposure, you're doing those things. That's what you're doing in your career. And I'll tell you, most people don't have clarity on that. They get very confused. They be calling these coworkers friends. And I'll be like, these aren't your friends. Your job is just a contract. It's a contract from them that says you'll do some stuff, and a contract from you that says you'll do some stuff for them. Like that's all that is. The people attached to that are all piece of their human resources. I think you even have that in your book as well. Yeah. Their resources. I'm in HR, and I hated changing. I've been in HR as long as it was called personnel, right? That's how long I've been in it. And I hated changing over and being called human resource. It felt so.
It's cold and it's not good. Right. It feels very plantation-y, but again, that's a whole nother topic for another time. We're not going to delve into
the plantation. No, don't even. I mean, we can't even be in the house. Like what are we doing?
Right?
So, yes. Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think that broke that function, to be honest. I think it broke it. And I spent 20, I have in my bio 20 years, but I do need to crank that up to 25 because I think I'm like 27 years in. So I need to at least crank that up. But I think that's the thing, like that was so hard. And a lot of time, and I think I even transitioned into leadership development to like move away from being HR, right? I'm like, I'm here to make y'all awesome. Like that's my job. That's what I do.
Whereas HR, traditional HR really is for the company, not for the employees.
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. The HR function, when I used to train people to get the HR certifications, and one of the things that I would tell them in terms of passing that test is that HR will, that when you are learning from the HR book, anybody, I might get my butt kicked for this, but I'm going to say it anyways. When you're learning to get certified, the training that you need to know is that the right answer on that test is going to say to talk to the people and assess and listen to their concerns. That is always going to be the right answer. Any answer that doesn't have that as step one is going to be wrong. If you remember that rule, you are going to pass that test.
You'll pass.
Yes.
Right.
However, a lot of people are taking that test after they've already started their careers in HR, right? You can't sit for the HR certification until you actually have so many years of experience. So most people are coming in with the experience and they're sitting there looking at the book, talk to the people first. Like no, it's whatever leadership says that you want done. And if it, benefits the people, yay. If it don't, too bad, right?
Oops.
Like that's actually the reality of human resources, is getting revenue and accolade through the labor of people on the plantation.
And that's true. Which is why it is so important to curate your career. Because if you, like you said this at the beginning, if you just sit by and let them, the owners of said plantations, right? If you let the owners of the corporate plantations just siphon your labor, right? You have to be like Denzel. Weren't we talking about this yesterday? I'm leaving with something, right? You got to be like Denzel. What are you getting out of it? How is it serving you? How are you curating it so that your career is to your benefit and so that you are able to enjoy life-work balance? Right. And so that brings us to one of my favorite parts of every episode, which is where, and thank you guys. Listen, Latrice just said it about don't schedule anything for an hour because it's going to go over. And here we are. It's 12:57. We're about to go over, but
it's inevitable. It's inevitable.
Right? It's inevitable, but I hope you all will continue hanging with us because we're having a blast. And we're at the point where I'm going to read a very short excerpt of the book. It's one that Latrice chose. I asked her, okay, what, if you had to pick an excerpt, what do you want me to read? And so it's about how to be successful and rested at the same time, right? That's basically it. So, here goes, an excerpt from Space to Exhale, and it's called How to Curate Your Career. This book is about making choices. It's about curating your life so that it operates to your benefit and frees you to enjoy greater ease. The curation process is one of examination, interrogation, selection, and implementation. So you end up with an exhibit, your life, that is pleasing to your spirit, supportive to your mind, and healthy for your body. Because adulting is a scam and capitalism is a hater, our professions play an enormous role in our existence on this earth. So much so that we can't truly redesign our lives without considering what kind of career we want and how to approach it so that we succeed in whatever way we define success. For that matter, we need to decide if we want a career at all, because it's perfectly okay to be happy with a job. There are entire books written on this subject, targeted specifically to Black women and women of color. The memo by Minder Hartz is an excellent one. Hartz makes the undisputable point that if a traditional career is what you truly want, then you must play the game according to the rules that have been established, because patriarchy and white supremacy aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Until changes are made at a systemic level, it is what it is. She is 100% right. For some of us, including me at one point, that is the path we desire. We enjoy the daily joust, the thrust and parry, the schemes and strategies. We enjoy proving the naysayers wrong and proving our cheerleaders right. We want to ascend the corporate ladder and eventually sit pretty in the C-suite. And that is perfectly okay. We are allowed to want what we want. We are allowed to seek success in whatever ways are meaningful to us. We are also allowed to change our minds about how we define success. Space to exhale is about exactly that. Pausing to reflect, taking a breath, and choosing a different path. As the years have passed, my definition of success has evolved. To paraphrase James Baldwin, I do not dream of labor. For me, rest is the new success. My career is a part of who I am, but it is far from being my everything. My job is not my identity. My title is not tied to my sense of self-worth. And my self-worth does not increase based on how busy I am. Booked and busy has its place, but so does blessed and rested.
Bars.
Oh, thank you. And so listen, for today, we do an affirmation every episode as well, right? So I actually pulled out two. We're going to get a bonus because it's your episode, right?
Right.
So
right,
the
right.
two affirmations I have are, the first one is, I am divinely supported in achieving life-work balance. I am divinely supported in achieving life-work balance. I am divinely supported in achieving life-work balance. And then the second one is, I am working less and earning more, under grace and in perfect ways. I am working less and earning more, under grace and in perfect ways. I am working less and earning more, under grace and in perfect ways. So yes, that's what we're doing. We are working less. We are earning more. We are definitely, and beyond earning more, we are resting more as well.
Yeah.
We are resting more.
Absolutely.
resting more.
Absolutely. All right. Can we do a quick commercial?
Right.
Before we go. Because I think it's important. This is part one of this conversation.
Yes,
and there's going to be a second part of this conversation on Thursday where Lisa's going to be my guest. So we're going to dive into her book more and talk about.
We're doing an exchange.
We are. We're doing.
We are doing exchange. I'm excited.
Tune in on Thursday. Yes, I want to make sure I squeeze that in.
Oh,
there.
absolutely, absolutely. Because
we get that in there. It's important.
Yes. Quick commercial. Quick commercial is necessary. So yes, so tune in on Thursday. Both of us will be posting more about that. So look out for it. And so before we go, Latrice, what is next for you and LeaderKeys, and where can people find you to book?
Yes.
To hire you? I always say this: hire, pay, book,
hire,
right?
Yes.
Retain.
Yeah.
So where can people find you to book your services?
Yeah, you can find all things LeaderKeys on LeaderKeysUnlock.com. You can get my services there. You can fill out my contact form. You can request me as a speaker. All the things. It's all there. So start there. I have some featured services right now that are kind of in the one-on-one space. And then this fall, the Career Accelerator for Black Women will come back in September. I had to take a little bit of a pause to focus on my next venture, which I guess it's okay to even talk about that as well. But your girl is seeking to become a TEDx speaker, so I have that going. I'm fully devoted and dived into that whole Italian adventure, and it is an adventure. But that's
for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, so, Thank you. But the Career Accelerator is coming back in September. So if you are a Black woman, you want to self-fund, you want your organization to fund, you want to support a Black woman, hit me up. That information is on there as well. And then as always, our signature offering is the Racial Justice Workshop. It's a 4-part series where you walk out understanding your community and with an action plan to actually start taking some steps to be a huge voice in your community. So yeah, that's all the things.
That's
Oh,
all the
and
things.
I do want to
Yeah.
say I have a free resource that's just for this. I have a resource that's paid that has 117 like journal prompts to help you with
Oh,
giving
that's
yourself space and
beautiful.
grace. I have one that I'm giving away for free that has 24, the first 24 that's in there. If you go into the LeaderKeys shop, click free resources, you'll find that free resource there as a
That is
special
beautiful.
thank you to you. Thank you, Lisa, for having
Yes,
me.
yes, I've seen it, and it is absolutely beautiful. You also definitely go and take advantage of that because it is lovely. And of course, as somebody who is into aesthetics, it's beautifully designed as well, which I appreciate. And I love Latrice's brand colors of purple and gold. So yeah. All right. So and now
Royal.
my things. You all already know, right? I'm the author of Space Exhale. We are currently, as of this date, if you're listening to this today and up to June 17th, we're in the pre-order phase. And so go out and support. The book is called Space to Exhale. You can order it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Wiley, all of the major book retailers. You can, of course, go to spacetoexhalebook.com, my site, and there's everything that you need is there. I'm gonna drop a little preview as well that I have a couple of launch events. I'm doing like a quiet launch, but there's not a lot, but even though it's small, it's mighty. And so there's going to be a launch event at this same time on Tuesday, the 17th of June, which is Pub Day. So we're going to do a virtual launch. And then on Saturday, the 21st, at least this week, Latrice, I don't need to look at my calendar for that, right?
The day before the 22nd.
When is the day before the 22nd? I have no clue.
Right.
But y'all,
That was
listen, if
so
you don't know
cute.
what I'm talking about, you go back to episode number 1 and listen to it, and you'll get the joke. It's a little inside joke. But yeah, so there's also going to be a live in-person launch. I am happy to say that we do have a sponsor. We have a location sponsor. Shout out to Stock. Shout out to the entire Stock is just amazing. They're an amazing company. They're an amazing company, but I really want to say that it is not just their public facing image. Every person that we have met and interacted with at Stock, from the CEO and everybody else, COO, Chief Relationship Officer, everyone just is absolutely amazing. And so Stock has stepped up to be our location sponsor for for the in-person launch event. So more to come on that, but I just want to shout out Stock and say thank you, and definitely go and get a subscription with them. I've had a subscription with them for years at this point, right? And so I just really believe in that company, and it doesn't hurt that the CEO is originally from Barbados, so big up to Ben. Barbados. It's an island thing. It's an island thing. So yeah, so go get the book, pre-order it. Pre-orders are super, super important for authors, especially new authors. And if you're watching or listening to this after June 17th, you can still buy the book then, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's still available, right? Order whenever you are listening to this is a good time to get yourself a copy of the book, or even a few. So I just want to thank all of you for being here, because this was another amazing episode. Of course, Latrice, what can I say? Thank you so much.
Thank you for
And
having me.
bonus points, because you and I are in Space Exhale, between Space Exhale and the Great Exhale brand colors. And I love your, oh my gosh, I wish you guys who are listening to this on Spotify, just hop over to YouTube and take a look at Latrice, because the cuteness factor is just all the way at 100%.
This is what June does.
Yeah.
And my grandbaby does this.
So adorable. I just love your coral colored flower. It's gorgeous. So yeah, so now I'll just formally say goodbye to everyone for this episode. So thank you so much for joining me on Space to Exhale, the podcast. I am looking forward to sharing space with you next week when I have a very special guest for you, LaTonya Davis, CEO of L. Davis Consulting and creator of 4C in the C-Suite. If you're listening to this before the next episode, make sure to click attend to register for the upcoming LinkedIn Live event. And naturally, if you want to dive deeper into what we discussed today, be sure to get a copy of my book, Space to Exhale, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Wiley Publishing, and wherever books are sold. And remember to tune in every Tuesday live on LinkedIn and YouTube to catch the vibes. If you can't make the live show, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and YouTube to catch the replay. Stay in touch. Follow me on LinkedIn. Check out my website, spacetoexhalebook.com, for updates about all the soft life shenanigans. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you next week. And remember, you are worthy of rest. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of having time and space to exhale. Bye.